Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. On this week's show, there's a whole lot going on in the DCEU. Harrison Ford gets set to add the MCU to his extensive resume. Netflix is bringing us a show about Blockbuster, which just seems a little mean. And the rest of Trailer Time gets way too musical for my liking. Join us as we discuss all this and everything else that happened this week in Geek. Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace. Hello, my name is Kev, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys and collectibles, gaming, and all things Geekcentric. We're back with another edition of This Week in Geek, where we look at all the latest news and trailers from the Geekiverse. Of course, I can't do this alone. Joining me on the show, you'd never find these guys in a Blockbuster discount bin. Their opinions are keepers, and their takes are always a win. What's up, Nate and Darcy? How are you today?
Yeah, I hope I wouldn't be found in a discount bin. I like to think that I'm a pretty fresh, new, entertainment commodity for folks. At least maybe one generation behind maybe I'm on a PS4 or something like that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we try and keep the news as fresh and relevant as possible. So we wouldn't want to be talking about things that could be found in a discount bin. But I have to say. As a longtime DVD collector back in the day, I found so many great deals going through those discount bins. I mean, I added dozens and dozens of movies to my collection and got really good at using a little soap and water to get the gigantic stickers that Blockbuster would stick all over those things. The discs themselves never really looked all that good, but the rest of it, I don't need to buy Baby Mama for $20, but if I can get it for $2.99, I'm getting it because anything is welcome in my DVD collection. At least that was my philosophy back in the day.
Yeah, I think I wish I could find it. I think I actually have a Blockbuster DVD that I just never returned.
So it's in like it's
Blockbuster
in that blue
went away.
And yellow case.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Even I wish I had like one of those for the case.
Right?
Or for the
gotta
shelf.
Find one.
I've got an N64 cartridge that I don't know where the case is for it, but it's got that Blockbuster sticker right across the back of it.
Good.
So that was my go-to for renting games when I was younger.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still do miss going to Blockbuster on a Friday night with, some friends or family, picking out a couple movies for the night, getting a big old bag of popcorn. I mean, it's so much easier now to just watch whatever you want, but it's not as fun as going up and down the aisles or going in on a Tuesday, which was movie release day, and hoping that they still had a copy of the newest movie that you wanted to rent in there on the shelves.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about moving to the streaming platform. Yeah, there's something magical about discovering. I think for me, the part that's sort of, I guess we kind of try to bring it back with Whatcha, and I know a lot of podcasts with like what they're watching and what they would recommend, but I think I kind of miss that the most is the Blockbuster staff was always people that loved movies. That's why they worked there for the most part. Sometimes they were just annoying teenagers that couldn't give two craps. But most of the time, they were people that loved movies just as much as the people going into those rental stores or whatever, right? So it's like to get those recommendations were always it was awesome. You would find out about movies or series that you never would have even thought about. And I don't quite know if AI has quite figured that out yet. The whole idea of like, hey, you watch this, so you'll like this sort of thing. I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same.
Some of those recommendations make absolutely no sense,
Yeah.
but it only gets worse if somebody borrows your account and starts watching stuff you'd never watch, and then all of a sudden the recommendations just get just terrible. If I get, all of a sudden I'll have 12 animes recommended for me, and it's like I don't
Check them
think
out.
I was watching something that.
Check them out. They're probably pretty good. That's all I got to say.
You know what? Maybe. And all I can think about now is that episode of Seinfeld where they have the movie store, and Elaine really likes this one employee's recommendation. She falls in love with the guy based on his picks, and he turns out to be a teenager living with his mother.
So good.
Good stuff. But on that note, I think it's time that we move right on into the news.
It's all about the details.
All right, our first story comes from Germaine Lucier at Gizmodo. According to a new report that dives into the possible future of DC, Man of Steel 2 is back in play, along with more Batman villain films and a Wonder Woman 3 update. In the wake of this week's release of Black Adam, a new Superman film starring Henry Cavill is in very early development with Warner Brothers. The idea of Cavill returning as Superman has been everywhere the past few weeks, with Black Adam star Dwayne Johnson heavily hinting that the character could have a cameo in the film. A potential cameo would mark the official return of the character, and as a result, the next step would be a new movie. Whether that's an official Man of Steel 2 or something having to do with Black Adam, time will tell. Apparently, writers are currently being sought after for a new Superman movie, and that is independent of the Ta-Nehisi Coates Superman film, which is also being worked on currently. In the Batman news, it's already been confirmed and made official that Matt Reeves is making its sequel and is also full speed ahead on the Penguin show for HBO Max. But a new report says more shows and movies are in very early stages of gestation, set in the Robert Pattinson Bat universe. Examples are characters ranging from Scarecrow to Clayface to Professor Pig. Will Batman be a part of those? Will they even happen? Again, nothing is official, but it's possible. Patty Hankins is apparently ready to send in an early treatment for Wonder Woman 3, which marks the first update on that film in some time. Plus, a script to The Flash 2 has already been completed, if that film turns out to be a hit, or if Ezra Miller stays out of prison. And then James Gunn, the filmmaker behind Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy movie, as well as Warner's DC-based The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, is angling for his own new DC project, or two. Apparently, Gunn and producer Peter Safran are in talks with Warner's for a mystery movie and possibly more. Safran has worked with DC in the past, being a producer on Shazam and its upcoming sequel, as well as Aquaman and that movie's sequel. It isn't clear what hero or teams Gunn is targeting, however. So which of these, I guess we'll call them four different sort of big DC news to come out this week, are you most excited for?
Honestly, I would love to say the next Man of Steel with Henry Cavill, but I'm too worried to do that so soon. I think it's a little soon to get excited for that without full confirmation, and just with everything that's going on at Warner Bros. For me, it's just like, again, it kind of breaks your geek heart, because while I'm not necessarily a huge DC fan from before the Nolan trilogy, like that's kind of where I started getting into DC with his Batman movies, it's just one of those things where I don't know. I'm excited for the stuff with the Batman. I think I'm most excited for whatever James Gunn is doing. I love Peacemaker, and I just want more of that. I think he gets it. I think he's one of the few people who do get it. But yeah, I don't know. The Matt Reeves Batman stuff, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to whatever James Gunn does too. He has yet to disappoint me in terms of comic book movies. But honestly, the Matt Reeves has me more excited, because the world we got introduced to in the Batman was so incredible and so rich and gritty, with like ripe for cool villain stories, that just getting the word that we're going to be exploring some of these other villains in a much more realistic setting, I am all for it and really excited for that type of thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely on board with you there, Darce. I think the idea of building out Gotham with all of these villains and really giving them time to shine in their own movies that will hopefully feature Batman in maybe a limited role before they maybe all come together in a future Batman project. I just think the potential there and just the potential we saw coming out of the Batman. I wonder though, with some of the suggested villains, such as Clayface, how does that work in an ultra-realistic sort of superhero world like we saw in that first Batman movie? Whereas a Scarecrow, if you do it in a similar way to how Nolan did it in his universe, I think that could work. So I'm very interested in that. I'm definitely most interested about seeing the Pattinson Bat universe expanded. And I'll lay off saying anything about Superman, having seen Black Adam one way or the other. I don't want to hint that something could be happening or dash any hopes or dreams. So I will leave that one be for now.
Maybe Clayface is just like the head of like a pharmaceutical skincare company or something like that.
He's
like
an actor in the comics, and after
is he?
After a face marring accident, he turns to chemicals and drugs to try and maintain his visage again, and that just goes poorly, and he becomes a blob of clay, essentially.
So they could, if they're giving us the origins of that character, that seems a little more realistic than like, the Clayface from like the Harley Quinn animated series or whatever, right? So, although if we got him too, I wouldn't be too upset. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of the route that they take. Well, who's the other one, Kevin, that you said, the pig guy?
Professor Pig. I had to look him up. I'd never heard of him.
Pig.
I don't remember seeing him in the animated series from the 90s. Darce, any inside info on that character?
From what I can remember, again, I'm not the biggest DC fan either, but Batman would be one of the titles I'd pick up regularly. I believe Professor Pig was a body modification guy, and it was all about like using animal parts to increase his henchman's fighting capabilities and stuff like that. It's, again, I might be remembering the wrong thing. There are so many different comic book heroes out there, but I'm pretty sure it was a body mod doctor was his whole thing.
In a horrifying way, I could see that fitting into the Matt Reeves universe. I think they could get really gritty and dark and just unsettling with that. Absolutely. I love how all three of us have sort of just skipped over the news that there is a Wonder Woman 3 in development. I mean, I just think the second one was just not quite the kind of movie that gets you excited for a third.
It sucks because the first one, honestly, was like, it was a pleasant surprise. I went into it with lower expectations and came out with much higher results. And the second one, I was just like, oh, cool. They're going for a different vibe. They're going for a different sort of, feeling. And it just falls so flat. And I just, especially with everything that Patty Jenkins has been doing lately, I don't know, man. I can't. I don't know if I can just fully invest back in that. And it was one of those things where, coming from the Star Wars side, when they said that we're no longer moving forward with the Rogue Squadron movie that she was doing, I was kind of like, yeah, maybe that's a good thing. maybe that's okay at this point. But I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe it'll surprise us. But it kind of feels like, especially with it being the third one, that it's kind of like, well, it just has to happen now. It's the third one. That's what we've set up to do. We're doing 3, so we'll just finish it off. And I don't know. We'll see.
Only time will tell. I think it's quite obvious. I mean, we would know this beforehand, but I think it's quite obvious for anybody who's listened to us in the past or even listening now. We're far more invested in the MCU than we are the DCEU, and I think, as this must be great news for diehard fans of the DCEU, they, who just want to see their favorite characters on the screen more. But I just think this goes to show there's just too many different directions that they're going in with this. And every time it seems like they're reining it in and getting focused, there's 3 different iterations of this character and 6 different storylines. And it's just, there's no cohesive bond that makes everything feel like it's working together cohesively. And that, for me, really does sort of limit excitement for any upcoming project.
Yeah, I mean, all this news does is remind me of all the other times that they've said, oh, and we're working on a Flash movie is going to be coming out. And you're like, great. And then it's like, how many years has it been? And we still don't have this Flash movie, right? And they've made so many promises that they've just completely dropped. And it just sucks. Like, again, it's just one of those things where I just want them to just somehow sell DC to Disney and just make it happen already. It'll be the right hands. It's the right thing to do. It's what everyone will want. I promise you. But I don't know, man. Maybe they can turn it around. I hope. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
maybe by the year 2030, we'll be talking about the DCEU in a positive light. But you did mention selling it to Disney, who obviously, and of course, runs the MCU. And so that is a perfect lead-in for our next story here, which comes from Matt Grobar at Deadline. Harrison Ford is set as General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross for Captain America New World Order and will star opposite Anthony Mackie. It's official. We'd heard rumors for a few weeks. The internet was abuzz. But Oscar nominee Harrison Ford, obviously of the Indiana Jones and Star Wars franchises, will be taking over the Marvel role of General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, beginning with Phase 5 title Captain America New World Order. He'll star there opposite Anthony Mackie with Shira Haas, Tim Blake Nelson, and Carl Lumbly, also amongst the ensemble. Ford's Captain America casting had been in the rumor mill for some time, with the Anklers' Jeff Snyder among those speaking of it as of late. While the new film's plot is being kept under wraps, Mackie will reprise his role as Sam Wilson, who assumed the mantle of Captain America in Disney Plus's hit series The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Julius Ona will serve as the PIC's director. Ford's General Ross is a top-ranking military official, first introduced in the Marvel Comics in 1962, who comes to lead the team of anti-heroes known as the Thunderbolts. The actor assumes the role last played by Oscar winner William Hurt in films ranging from 2008's The Incredible Hulk through to 2021's Black Widow, prior to his passing in March of this year at the age of 71. Falcon creator Malcolm Spellman wrote the script for the upcoming superhero pick with the show's staff writer Dallin Mooson, and will produce alongside Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige. Captain America New World Order is the fourth film set for Marvel's Phase 5, with titles including Thunderbolts and Blade to follow. This movie is slated for release on May 3rd, 2024. So how do we feel, guys? He's putting down the blaster. He's hanging up the whip for good. But Harrison Ford is now joining another mega franchise. How do we think he's going to do in the role? And do we think it's a suitable replacement for William Hurt?
I'm really looking forward to seeing what he brings to the character. I think it'll be a very grizzled take on it. Again, fed up with everything he's had to put up with the snap and all the heroes since then, the Sokovia Accords. I think it's interesting the fact that Harrison Ford chose to step away from those two other franchises that you listed earlier, and he's stepping into this one where they probably have a 5-year plan for at least this character to go. So it's interesting to see the dedication that he's signed on for at least what the character entails.
Yeah, it'll be well, and that's interesting you say dedication that he signed on for, Darcy, because I kind of agree with you in the sense that I'm like, cool, so is he gonna Red Hulk out and then die by the end of this movie? Because I just, for me, it's one of those things where, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure they're giving him a gross amount of cash to do this, and I'm sure Harrison Ford loves money, but it's just one of those things where I just, he's finally getting to the end of the Indiana Jones saga, right? He's out of Star Wars, and then he signs up for Marvel. Like, it just doesn't seem like a move from what I know of Harrison Ford, that he'd be down to be signing up for like a multi-movie deal. So it kind of leads me to think that like this will be the last movie that we do see him in that might then. And is Thunderbolts happening, prior to this or after this movie?
According to the article, which was just the other day, because I know they've
keep
recently done a reshuffling, but the article was just a day or so ago as of this recording, and it says Thunderbolts is to follow. So I almost feel like his appearance there is meant to set that up. But I'm just not sure how you do that show without him, or movie, whatever it's going to be, without him having some sort of a presence there.
But I mean, what if, I guess the idea is like we see the setup for the Thunderbolts through this movie, and something to do with his death, with the character's death, is what drives that narrative forward. Almost as if that was sort of a pseudo sequel, at least for that part of the storyline. Again, it's one of those things where I'm just like, the happiest I've ever seen Harrison Ford was when he did come on at San Diego Comic-Con for The Force Awakens, and I think he was stoked because he knew that he was going to die in the movie, and so that's probably why he was so happy, he's like, I'm finally out, I'm finally away from this character, and I'm sure he loves it for sure, but it's just one of those things where it just feels weird to see him coming into the MCU.
I mean, like he's wanted Han Solo to die since Empire Strikes Back, and I think the only way they got him in Force Awakens was to promise him it's a one and done, and then I mean even then he still comes back for Rise of Skywalker for that limited role, and I think here that's what the role can be. It can be a very limited presence that he has in any given appearance. And you know, when you see the pride that he seemed to have for this fifth Indiana Jones movie, I believe, was it at Star Wars Celebration this year where he came out and sort of got to talk about that? And so maybe there's something in the script, maybe there's something about the character that they were really able to sell him on to say, listen, it's not going to be a ton of work. You know, you're not a leading character in any given appearance that you would have. But this is what you have to work with. And he thought it'd be fun to sort of do. Maybe it's an homage to William Hurt. I'm not sure if they had a relationship, you know, working in the industry together. So, I don't think he's just simply here for a quick paycheck, one and done sort of thing. I do think there has to be something a little bit deeper here.
Potentially. I mean, again, it could be that he's on for this and then Thunderbolts. But I just have a hard time believing that he's like, I'm going to be in the MCU going forward in so many of these projects that are happening. But I'm wondering if this is going to be, are they going to approach it? Because they can go one of two ways, right? They can go the way of, the Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle, the Norton to Ruffalo way of being like, we just recast him, where nobody's going to say anything. There's going to be no reference to it whatsoever. Or do you guys think that they're going to go the multiverse route and bring in a different, multi universes, Thaddeus Ross? What do you think? Do you think they're going to go that route, or do you think? Because I know Justin was suggesting that maybe he's just Red Hulk right away, and it's more of a CG implementation. But then why would you get Harrison Ford for a CG version of? No, probably not. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I think he's got to be they're just doing the same Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle thing. It makes sense being a Hulk actor that they just kind of gloss over that. I mean, look at Mark Ruffalo. He took over with no one batting an eye, basically. So I have a feeling it's going to be along those lines, because with Captain America New World Order, it feels like it's very much going to be a story about what's going on in our world, or at least in their world, with all the superpowers becoming more widely spread and stuff like that. And bringing in the multiverse into that, I feel like would kind of just too much on the plate at that point.
Right. We're muddling it a bit too much.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where we'll just have to wait. The movie doesn't come out till 2024, so there's lots of time for them to figure it out, and things could change by then. Who knows? But no, I think just on a base level, Harrison Ford is in my top three, if not my absolute favorite actor of all time. And so to see him join what is the best franchise in the world going today is I'm excited for it. Whether it's a one-time appearance, if it's a few limited ones, I'm just excited to see him join the cast of the MCU.
I just can't wait to see him put up with the press for these movies, just like so in the comic books, because originally with Thaddeus Ross and he's just like, I don't fucking care, like I don't care about any of this, like
he'll say, who are you talking about? I don't know what you're
talking about. Was he in this movie?
And maybe like that's another deal with Feige, where it's kind of like, listen, we won't have you do any of the press. You don't have to sit down and talk about anything. You're not expected to know anything. The stars like Mackie will carry the burden of that. Just come on and have some fun. Who knows? Awesome. Well, speaking of coming on and joining an all-star cast, our final story comes from Bruce Herring at Deadline. Sister Act 3 is in motion as Whoopi Goldberg reveals who she'd like to cast. If Whoopi Goldberg has her way, there will be a lot of new habit-wearing sisters in Sister Act 3. Appearing on Comedy Central's Hell of a Week with host Charlemagne the God, Goldberg listed Lizzo, Keke Palmer, and Nicki Minaj as among those she'd like to bring to the third edition of the film comedy. Goldberg said the script for the new film will be delivered by the end of the month. I want everybody, she said when asked about casting. I want as many people who want to have some fun because I really desperately need to have some fun. The original Sister Act did more than $231 million worldwide at the box office, with its sequel, Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit, bringing in around $125 million worldwide. Oscar winner Goldberg will be back in her very vocal role, originated in the first Sister Act from 1992. Tyler Perry is also on board as a producer on the project. Goldberg is also producing the new sequel. Sister Act 3 will debut on Disney+. So I don't know about you guys. I grew up just loving the Sister Act movies. And so to see a third one is great. And I actually think her casting suggestions could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude, like, oh my gosh. I'm so stoked for this. I think we've talked on the podcast a little while ago about like the Sister Act franchise and just how much it's just one of those movies that you can just go back and rewatch over and over again, first one and the second one. For me personally, I'm a bigger fan of the second one than the first one, but I get why the first one gets its flowers. But dude, it's funny because I thought that Keke Palmer was already completely in. I thought I'd read somewhere, but I did see on The View where she was saying like she was talking to Whoopi and she's like, yeah, Tyler Perry's doing Sister Act 3. I just want to let you know I'm available for any job. I'll be a janitor, whatever you want in the movie or something. And then Whoopi like looks at her, everything goes quiet, and she goes, I already brought it up. And like you just see Keke Palmer's face just light up, like it's so bright, and it's such a delightful little clip if you look it up. And it makes a ton of sense. I think the poster, I think Keke Palmer posted the poster treatment, and it has her name on there, so she's definitely in. But dude, freaking let's get Lizzo as well. I think this is the year of Lizzo. Lizzo's doing everything these days. Ever since she started playing the glass flute from that dead president, she's just been blowing up all over the internet, and rightly so, because she's so talented, and that would be such a fun get for this movie.
100%. Now, Darce, I know you're not a Sister Act guy. I don't think you've probably even seen the movies, but if the third one is set to come on Disney Plus, would you go check out the first two just to watch the new one, or is this something that you don't really need to get too invested in?
I mean, I'm sure I'd check it out. I liked a lot of Whoopi's movies growing up when I was younger. Just Sister Act was never one I got into, and I've heard good things about it. So there's definitely potential for me to get into it. And if 3 is going to have such a star-studded cast, it'll definitely be more incentive for me to at least check out the third one, if not fall in love with the franchise from the beginning. So yeah, definitely potential there.
And all I know is you best be bringing back my girl. I talked about her a couple weeks when we were talking about Hocus Pocus. My girl, Kathy Najimy, better be coming back to give that operatic singing style. She is hysterical in those movies, and I really hope to see her again.
It would be so good. And honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing Lauryn Hill again. I think would be a really cool way for them to just sort of continue through the bringing back some of those aspects of the sequel. And it's going to be interesting to see where they go from like a story perspective. Like I don't even know. Like I have no idea. You say the word Sister Act 3, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't know.
You tossed around off air before we started recording the title "Kick in the Habit," and I love the idea. Maybe somebody's dealing with addiction of some sort,
right?
And
okay,
they need to bring that sisterly spirit into it to help somebody overcome an issue like that. I think that could absolutely work.
Bring it back to like a more sort of a smaller cast, more personal story between these characters. I could see that happening. Maybe a road trip movie. Do we do a road trip movie? There we go.
Okay,
let's go.
Okay.
Taking it on the road, like they go to different churches. Dude, different schools, different like youth programs. I'm so down. I just can't
Disney,
wait. I can't wait.
Disney, Tyler Perry, hit us up. We'll have a little brainstorming session. Okay, awesome,
so good.
All right, well, in a bit of sadder news, this last week we lost two incredibly impactful performers from our childhoods. Robbie Coltrane passed away at the age of 72. He's most famously known for portraying Hagrid in the Harry Potter series of films. As well, Angela Lansbury also passed away at the age of 96. While she might best be known for her starring role in the TV crime series Murder, She Wrote, she's perhaps most fondly remembered as Mrs. Potts from 1991's Beauty and the Beast, in which she famously sang the titular song, Beauty and the Beast, which won the Academy Award for Best Song at the Oscars that year. So two just such integral parts of our childhood growing up in just movies that I still watch, quite regularly to this day. It's always tough to lose those iconic people from our lives, especially when they leave such a lasting impact.
Yeah, it's especially it's just one of those things where I think, especially for Robbie, where I think his presence is still so felt as the character of Hagrid, just because those movies live on and keep. I saw a post just a few days ago on Instagram of somebody had just left flowers at the Harry Potter world outside of Hagrid's hut, and I just was like, that hit me, and I was just like, yeah, and you can just see how much that character resonates with people still to this day, and obviously it has everything to do with him. He brought that character to life so well, and I keep thinking back to, and Justin was telling me offline, he's like, yeah, he can't stop replaying that moment in the documentary, the reunion documentary, of him just saying, this character is going to live on, and of course I won't, but and it's just like, oh
yeah,
man.
Justin actually shared that on his Twitter, if you want to check that out, because it is a really poignant clip to sort of watch now, and just to see how much the role meant to him and how special it was that he could do that, so it's for his children and for generations to come, and I think he was really proud of the lasting legacy that he'll have with that role.
Yeah, totally. It sucks to see him go, but again, the character of Hagrid will live on forever. And as a fan, since one of the first books I read was Harry Potter, so seeing him bring the character to life in that first movie and then continue to do so every movie after that, I can't wait to share that with my niece going forward, or anyone who I want to share the love of Harry Potter. Hagrid will be a part of. So that's just awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in it again. It's one of those things where it just makes you want to go back and rewatch all of his performances and all of the moments with him. And obviously, rewatching Harry Potter for a lot of people is a thing that they do anyways, but even more so, I think with his passing.
Yeah, when I heard the news, I thought, oh boy, I just did it about 4 or 5 months ago. Am I really going to go back and do it again? But it's certainly, I generally do it around the Christmas time, but it'll mean a bit something different this time around and times going forward, I think.
And for me, I think the moment that always hits me is I think him just talking with Hermione, I think, and working through her problems of her birth situation, and just that, again, those moments where I'm just like, without that actor, without that warmth, I don't know if that scene would be as good or as resonant as it was. It was so good. As for Angela, I can't wait to see her in Glass Onion, in the new Knives Out mystery. I'm excited to kind of see what she does in that movie. And she worked, man. She had so many, yes, she was Mrs. Potts in The Beauty and the Beast. She was Mrs. Potts in literally any other portrayal that you could think of if it was like a game, like she was in Kingdom Hearts, and she was in Beauty and the Beast, The Enchanted Christmas, literally just so many different things. The Magical Ballroom game, everything there. And then even to kind of more recently, we see her in Nanny McPhee. She's always just been such a staple of the industry. And of course, Murder, She Wrote is it's fantastic. My mom watches that show all the time, and I just I find myself being I don't know if I'm going to get into this, and I sit down, I'm like, this is freaking good.
You're
so
you
good.
are not sitting down for an episode of Murder, She Wrote and not finishing that song.
Correct.
Not a chance. My Nana used to watch it, and so I'd watch it with her all the time. Absolutely.
So good.
And then, my wife and I, getting married at Disney, my wife actually walked down the aisle to Beauty and the Beast, and so that song's always, that we'll have going forward, will always have a very special and fond place in my heart, and so I'll always give a little thought to Mrs. Lansbury for her excellent work bringing that to such, to life. But why don't we get on? You were talking about a road trip earlier there with Sister Act Nate. Why don't we have a little road trip? Head on down to the trailer park, because I think
It's trailer time.
All right, our first of two musical trailers is for Matilda the Musical, which is a musical fantasy comedy drama film directed by Matthew Warchus from a screenplay by Dennis Kelly, which is based on the stage musical Roald Dahl's Matilda by Kelly and Tim Minchin, which itself is based on the 1988 novel Matilda by Roald Dahl. It tells the story of an extraordinary girl with a vivid imagination who dares to take a stand to change her story with miraculous results. This is the second film adaptation of the book after the 1996 film directed by Danny DeVito. The film stars Alicia Weir, Lashana Lynch, Stephen Graham, Andrea Riseborough, and Emma Thompson as the dastardly Agatha Trunchbull. The film is scheduled for release in the United Kingdom on November 25th and in the United States on December 9th. I'm a big fan of the 1996 film, and for me, it's almost impossible to replace Danny DeVito in the role of Matilda's father. And obviously, Trunchbull is such an iconic character from that movie. But I think if anybody could pull it off, it's the almost unrecognizable Emma Thompson.
Yeah, holy crap! Yeah, she looks fantastic in this movie, and I'm excited to. I think that's maybe the only thing I'm kind of excited for with this is her portrayal. Unfortunately, and don't get me wrong, and we were kind of joking off air, but yeah, I love myself a good musical, but I think the biggest thing with this is it's just why. I get that this is based more off the musical than the 1996 movie, but like you were saying, dude, Mara Wilson, Danny DeVito, Rhea Perlman, Pam Ferris are just, that's Matilda. And it's Matilda for so many people still to this day, and I get that it's been 26 years. I can't help but keep thinking back to literally a few weeks ago when we talked about Hocus Pocus 2, right? And just how good they did with sort of bringing that back. Why wouldn't we approach it from that direction? Why would we maybe not want to try to continue the Matilda franchise in a way? I feel like that, even though it's just as risky, would yield just as good, it would yield better results than what this looks like. I just don't know if this needed to happen. I don't know.
I don't know. That might have something to do with the rights of the estate of Roald Dahl and all that stuff, because it is based on his books, and there was only the one Matilda book, I believe. I'm excited personally just because I'm a fan of Tim Minchin, so if he's behind the music in this, then I know I'm going to enjoy the musical aspect at least. And it's been a while since I've watched that 96 film, so a musical take on it does have me looking forward to revisiting the story.
Oh, I just looked up Tim Minchin and... Yeah, okay. All right. I just don't know. I love his comedy. I don't know how much of that comedy is going to make it into this musical, but okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm kind of on the fence, because you're right, Darce. The name alone gets you a little excited, and then it's but I wonder, I don't know, musicals that are made for the stage then being filmed don't really resonate all that well with me. And so I just wonder if this wasn't something, because I know it was wildly successful critically as the musical on stage, and so I just wonder if it wasn't just best left there.
Well, just because, Kevin, I think you're literally nailing it, because the idea is that you go to the musical and you're like, most people are probably experiencing that. I guess they're experiencing that musical after they've watched the movie, most likely, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, this is reminding me a little bit of the movie. But then why would we go back to a movie to then remind us of the musical, or you know what I mean? There were so many moments where I was just like, I watched this trailer and I was just like, oh cool, yeah, I want to watch the original now. Thanks, bye.
Yeah, or even a filmed version of the actual stage show, like they did with Hamilton.
I
could see that doing a lot better.
Great.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But again, I would watch it probably just to see Emma Thompson here, because she looks incredible, and I always love her work. Now,
there we go.
Our next musical trailer is for a movie that I'll admit I'm a little bit more excited for, just based on the two lead members of the cast. It's for Spirited, which is a Christmas-themed musical comedy film directed by Sean Anders and written by Anders and John Morris. The movie will be a musical reimagining of the classic Christmas ghost story, A Christmas Carol. The film is headlined by Ryan Reynolds, Will Ferrell, and Octavia Spencer. The film is scheduled for release in select cinemas on November 11th, before its streaming release on November 18th on Apple TV+. Before we get into the trailer itself, I just remember a TikTok that went pretty viral a little while ago, and it was Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell singing that is it Misha
Grace Kelly.
Grace Kelly,
Grace
yes.
Kelly by Mika.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and that was a lot of fun. And so I think if they have even an ounce of the charisma and sort of chemistry that they had in that, this movie could really work.
I hope so. I first off, sorry, before I get into the trailer, it's funny that that you mentioned that TikTok, because off your recommendation, Kevin, I actually have fallen head over heels for something related to sports. I've fallen in love with Welcome to Wrexham so much, and it is absolutely. I finished watching the first season. I love it so much, and it's so wonderful. The way that they don't just focus on the sports, but they focus on the people behind it is awesome. Anyways, in one of the episodes, though, Will Ferrell does show up at one of the games, and he's got like the grayish hair, and so I was like, oh, okay, so maybe they were filming this movie, because when I saw that moment in the documentary, I'm like, I guess celebrities are friends, and I get that they're comedy or they're comedians, so maybe they're friends. But getting to this trailer, I'm like, no. They were absolutely filming this at that time, and Ryan invited him to a game. Dude, this looks fun. I really, really want to have high spirits about this, but I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about the idea of revisiting this story again, with the Christmas Carol, story. It does look like they're doing something a little bit different, and I do love myself a musical, and I love Ryan Reynolds, and I love Will Ferrell, and again, putting all this stuff on paper, yeah, dude, absolutely. It sounds like a huge success. I'm a little worried about the writers and the directors for this, coming off of things like Dumb and Dumber 2 or the Daddy's Home franchise. Like, these are just, I just don't know if the track record is there for me to put my full trust in this. But if the two leads can carry the movie beyond its story, it'll probably still be a good time to watch.
I am super stoked for this one. Christmas Carol is one of my favorite Christmas stories. Every iteration of it I've enjoyed, including the Jim Carrey one, but going back to the Disney one and the Muppets one, like everything, it's a fun story. I've always really enjoyed the aspect of looking at, past, present, future, all that stuff. And this looks like it's going to do a fun twist on it, where it's going to be very self-aware and almost seems like a sequel almost to the original Christmas Carol story, where it's taking place, 120 years later or whatever. So I'm very intrigued. And again, the cast has me even more excited for it, because again, with that little teaser, clearly they both have pipes, and I can't wait to see them stretch those for this movie.
Now, Darce, have you seen what is one of my favorite iterations of the story, which is with Bill Murray, called Scrooge?
Yes, it's great. Yeah, again, every version of this story I've enjoyed.
Even the Jim Carrey one you said. That's where you almost lost me.
Even the Jim Carrey one,
Uncanny Valley, just ooh boy.
The animation's a little bit strange on it. I will say, I did kind of dig in the trailer. We do get a taste of some of their ad-libbing, and these two are masters of ad-libbing. So with some of the moments there with the tap dancing, he's like, I just, in the middle, I kind of messed up. And you can totally tell that that's not written ahead of time. And the whole like little Larry, micro Mike, super small Steve, like that's Will Ferrell, 100%. That's him. So again, as much as I'm a little bit worried about the writers, if these two have sort of brought themselves and invested themselves in this story a little bit more, I'm hoping they had a little bit more of a hand in it, then it might just work for me. But dude, if Hugh Jackman shows up and does a musical cameo, that's it. That's all you have to tell me, and I'll be there.
As long as he's not dressed like a pirate singing a Nirvana song, okay, I'll accept it.
We'll see. Or maybe that would be even better. I don't know.
Well, you know what? If they're going to poke fun at it, then I would actually accept that. I'd actually be okay with that. Once again, that hits select cinemas on November 11th before its streaming release on November 18th, right in time for the Christmas season. And I will just quickly say, November 18th is a good time to start your Christmas stuff, okay? I was at the store today, And I'm sorry, it's October 18th. I want Halloween decorations and Halloween stuff still in stores, not the barrage of Christmas stuff that they had at Costco. So that was a little disappointing. You got to wait till at least November 1st in my books before you start pimping the Christmas stuff. So November 18th is a wonderful time, in my opinion, to start your holiday spirit for Christmas. It's right around when we do the Santa Claus parade in Toronto. That's always been sort of my, like, okay, it's Christmas time rule of thumb.
Yeah, I don't want to be seeing no Santa Clauses and elves walking around on Halloween, okay? Don't be putting on, if that's the new costume for kids now, walking around, like, come on, dude. No way. No, unless it's like a bloody Santa, then maybe.
There we go. We go.
Yeah.
We'll always find exceptions to the rule. Alrighty, well, our final trailer is for Blockbuster, an upcoming American workplace comedy series created by Vanessa Ramos, who was a writer on Brooklyn Nine-Nine and an executive producer on Superstore. And it's funny because within the first 15 seconds of this trailer, I thought, man, this looks a lot like Superstore.
Yeah.
And so it makes a lot of sense. Based on the Blockbuster video rental brand, the series is set in the last Blockbuster video and explores what and who it takes for a small business to succeed. The series will star Randall Park and Melissa Fumero, with a reoccurring role from my boy, J.B. Smoove. The series is the second time Netflix has used the Blockbuster brand, first being with the 2020 documentary film The Last Blockbuster, which is completely unrelated to the show we're talking about here.
So it seems,
It is slated to premiere on November 3rd on Netflix, and fingers crossed that we'll get an early access to the show from our friends at Netflix Canada so we can give you the inside scoop before it's released. We were talking off the top of the show here, boys, about our relationships with Blockbuster. How are we feeling about this show?
Coming into this, exactly, it feels like a perfect jumping onto point is something like Superstore. Like, it almost feels like we talked about that algorithm suggesting things. Watch Superstore. If you're digging this trailer and you want to get a head start, watch Superstore. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of those same feels with this series. I think I'm a huge fan of Randall Park, obviously Jimmy Woo in the MCU, and Melissa Fumero. Give me Jimmy Woo and Amy Santiago. I almost said Auntie Santiago. Amy Santiago any day. This just looks so nostalgic, and I know we kind of talked a little bit about our Blockbuster stories early on, but I just wanted to mention another one really quick of, like, seeing the imagery in this. Just, they've nailed the look of the store. It's so perfect and got me so nostalgic. And I remember being in a Blockbuster as it was shutting down here in Canada. Like, they were literally, like, we were walking into the Blockbuster and they were literally like tossing out signage as we were walking in. And I remember at the time, there were a ton of current gen Xbox games for sale, and I just kept like scooping them up for like whatever the cost was of like a rental. And I remember talking with my cousin. I was talking to her about Avatar: The Last Airbender, and she's like, "Oh, it's here on DVD for like $15, the complete series." And I was like, "Nah, I'll just stream it on Netflix." And I remember audibly hearing a employee in the next row over heard me and just let out the like biggest sigh, and I felt so bad. I felt so awful because, again, like as we were saying, a lot of these people that did work at Blockbuster, they cared about Blockbuster. Heck, I would probably, if Blockbuster was huge right now, I'd probably be working at a Blockbuster. So yeah, man, this they nailed the look of this. I'm super stoked to just at least see that. I don't know if this is going to be like a Keenan show situation and we're going to get one season or two seasons of it, or if it is going to maybe run the gamut and give us a little bit more, but I'm excited to check it out, dude. I think it's going to be interesting.
They've definitely nailed that quirky cast of characters in this trailer, introduced to everyone working there, and you can see it's got a lot of that, the charm that Superstore has, and that it's the weirdos who work there that bring this place to life. So I'm definitely on board for, going for a stroll down memory lane at a local Blockbuster. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I'm all for the traditional workplace comedy. I generally tend to enjoy those shows. Randall Park is just so likable. And his last sort of comedy series, Fresh Off the Boat, is a really, really underrated show in my opinion. He brings so much heart and soul to that show that, I'm excited to see him. Generally we get him in just limited roles, like what he does in the MCU and everything. So anytime he can sort of carry something, I think he's really well suited to that. And like you said, Darcy, I think it's going to be the cast of characters around him that really bring it to life. And I could easily see this going for 3 or 4 seasons, having a run like Superstore, right? This isn't something destined to go on for 12 seasons, but if you find the right chemistry and a decent writing staff, I think there can be some life here. And I did sort of mention it in my open, but it is just so funny to me how Netflix keeps using the Blockbuster name. And when you look into the history of how Blockbuster could have purchased Netflix and thought, oh no, this would never work, and here we are all these years later, and Netflix is making shows with the Blockbuster title in it. It's kind of crazy.
It's nuts. And I like, it's interesting too, because I thought when we first heard about this series being made, I was a little bit looking forward to the idea of it taking place in like the 2013, 2014 timeline. Obviously, that's not the case. We see Tyler Alvarez's character is recording on like what looks like maybe like an iPhone 12 Pro or 13 Pro, and there's also a reference to Space Jam 2. So clearly this is taking place in 2021, 2022. And I think they're sort of playing off the idea of, some of these characters, like I think, Randall Park's character and Melissa's character sort of having that irreverence for Blockbuster, and then we've got some of these younger characters coming in with their TikTok generation of like, why are we even doing this when we could literally just click a button and watch all these movies? So I think they're obviously going to be playing off that comedy, which is a good substitute. But I will say, if you haven't checked out that documentary about Sandy Harding, who runs the last Blockbuster in Bend, Oregon. This does not look like it takes place in Bend, Oregon, or around that family. But if you ever get a chance to watch that documentary, it's so incredible. It's so wholesome. And honestly, Kevin, and I think we said this when we first talked about that documentary on this podcast, but when are we going to get that road trip? Speaking of road trips, let's go to Bend, Oregon. You said it yourself. You wanted to get yourself one fresh Blockbuster case. I'm sure we could get one from them. They also give out membership cards. You can get official Blockbuster memberships.
Oh, it'd be
from
so
them.
nice. I'm always jealous when somebody tweets that they still have the last one they got in their wallet, and
So
it's like,
dope.
how did I not keep something like that? I keep everything, and how did I not keep my last Blockbuster card?
So cool. So like, I hope this show maybe also does a good thing for them as well. I would love to see it elevate the brand and the brand awareness and pick it back up, and people share TikToks of it and be like, oh, I wish I could go to Blockbuster again, and then it becomes a viral sensation so that we can get that Blockbuster more business. I mean, dude, again, we're talking about it with such a reverence, and we love it so much that it blows my mind that there wouldn't be some attempt at a resurgence of a Blockbuster, whether that, maybe even make it like one of the H&M stores, here, where it's just like, or sorry, HMV stores, not H&M. H&M's a clothing brand. HMV stores, right? Like make it like you can buy your Blu-rays, your DVDs, your collections here, and make it like almost like a store built on nostalgia. Sell Funko Pops. I don't care. You know what I mean? But like, I think they have something there to really bring back. And I don't know.
I love that idea. So it's not so much about renting movies, but it's a place to buy movie merchandise that reminds you of your childhood, reminds you of that nostalgia. That's a brilliant idea.
Come on.
Let's see if somebody capitalizes on that. But I think it's time to hang up the banjo for this week as we wrap up trailer time and move right into Whatcha. Now, Whatcha's obviously where we like to share shows or games or movies or things we're reading that we don't quite cover in our traditional movie reviews or watch clubs. And so I will start with you, Darce. What you up to these days?
Well, like Nate mentioned earlier, this podcast, and you mentioned a couple twigs ago, I too have gotten into Welcome to Wrexham, so it's a third geek recommendation from this side because, again, such a heartfelt documentary series. It's really about the people that the club is based in the town and stuff like that. So it's very, very enjoyable. But other than that, I've also been catching up on some Hot D, some House of the Dragon. And man, I am really glad I waited to binge that show because that show is so bingeable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Darcy, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I almost like the pacing more than Game of Thrones in the sense of like, I think you wouldn't have House of the Dragon without Game of Thrones. I totally understand
of course.
that.
Yeah.
But as a Game of Thrones fan, watching this and being like, wait, we get this already? Wait, we get this moment like a week after getting the setup for it is so rewarding as they do those time jumps. And I think the time jumps were such a good call for this series. So good.
And a lot of that is coming from the source material, I think, because as Kevin can remember from us reading or listening to that book, a lot of it is just talking about the major events that happen and sometimes skipping 5 or 6 years at a time just to get to the next big event. And that, again, is the big draw to this series, is that you're focusing on these pivotal moments in the Targaryen history that set up for this huge clash. And it's so enjoyable. So, yeah, I'm late to the party, but I'm loving every second of it now.
Well, and you know what I really like about it? Because I follow quite a few Twitter accounts that sort of cover the show. One in particular that even before the show came on talked a lot about the book, and they've gone on the record to say, listen, we're not going to talk about any spoilers from the book while the show's on. We'll just sort of catch up on what we know from the book based on the episode that just recently aired. But no, a lot of these people on Twitter seem to have issues with anytime the show deviates from the book a little bit. And I kind of like it because while that book is actually just written by maesters, and it could be their interpretation of the events based on their biases, based on who they were actually supporting. I'd like to think the show is the genuine
true
account of what happened, and we're just getting that true story now. And so anybody who's you get purists all the time who, if you stray one word from the book, they get upset. But no, I think this show is doing a remarkable job. I think the only issue I have with it was that they didn't age up. What's his name? He's the new Joffrey. He's just the worst.
Kristen Cole.
Yeah, he's the worst character on this show. I hate him, and I just think it was harder to accept the time jumps because he just looks the same, and we've now had him on our screen for like over 20 years, and he looks the same. That would literally be the only thing I could complain about from the show. I think it's wonderful. I'd love to talk more about it once it wraps up on the podcast. So
I think we will.
Maybe keep your eyes and ears open for something that we might do to sort of recap that first series. But we were talking at breakfast today about how depressing it is that after the episode on Sunday, we don't get more Hot D or House of the Dragon until 2024. Oh, that is just a miserable thought.
It's a long
wait. That
wait.
is depressing.
Yeah. But I mean, how long did we wait between Game of Thrones and Hot D? What was that?
I mean, yeah, but that was after the completion of something, and that would have been 2019. So that was 3 years, but that was, again, the completion of something. I have a feeling, based on where they are in the story, they're only going to start the major events that they've been working up to and then go, see you in a couple of years, guys.
Yeah.
So that is... Thankfully, as we constantly discuss on the show, there will be lots to keep us entertained. And
we'll have Last of Us, Kevin. We're going to have The Last of Us, and everything's going to be okay.
Yes, as long as there's one good HBO show without more than a month or two in between, then I'm happy. As long as I have that HBO show to look forward to. Nate, how about yourself? What you up to these days?
What's funny you mentioned HBO shows. I think this show is something that I would put up there with the quality of an HBO show. It is, I believe it's a Hulu series, and you can access it through Crave, through Stars, but it was one that a friend of mine, she recommended at work, and it's called Rami, and it is absolutely incredible. It is basically, it follows a first-generation American Muslim man named Rami, who's on a spiritual journey in a politically divided New Jersey neighborhood. And so the idea behind it is that it focuses very much on like the fact that he's a millennial, and he's, millennials are going to millennial, and they're going to do things that are maybe not as morally sound or what their parents might want. And meanwhile, it also looks at him trying to explore his faith. at the same time. And dude, it's absolutely fantastic. Like just the way that I think we talked about the Miss Marvel feeling like it was the standard for what cultural representation should be with that specific culture, and this is right up there with it. I've learned so much by watching the show, and it's not the kind of show that holds your hand or sort of even plays towards more of a Western audience. It just gives you this character's life. And I mean, if you are, for our Marvel fans, May Callumway from Moon Knight fame, she's in it. She plays the sister. She's fantastic. And I think the coolest thing about the show is, even though it's called Rami, it focuses on his entire family. And so we see an episode, with Dina, his sister. We see an episode with Farouk, his dad, or with his mom, Mesa, or his uncle, Nassim. And we get to follow them through their journeys in sort of living in the United States. And I think one of the most interesting feelings is watching the show, and you get like a blend of lovely moments, cringe moments, where you feel like you're like, I don't know if I could be watching this right now, as well as moments of kind of comedic sadness. Like, it's such a weird feeling because you're laughing, and the characters on screen, like the way it's written, you're like, yeah, it's meant to be laughed with. But then you sit back for a second and you just kind of go, oh man, yeah, that is actually really awful that either happened or is happening at this time in our world. And so it's a wonderful show. I highly, highly recommend it. Season 2, Mahershala Ali is in it, and it blew my mind. He is so phenomenal. Anyways, I can't say enough things about it. I highly, highly recommend watching Rami on Hulu.
Well, yeah, because I was going to ask if it leaned more towards comedy or drama, and I'm seeing that it's been nominated for 3 Emmys, all under the comedy series umbrella, including Mahershala Ali for his performance there. So definitely sounds worth checking out.
Yeah, man. And Rami Youssef won a Golden Globe for Best Actor for the series. Like, it's just one of those things where I again, it reminds me a lot of like when Dave came into my life from FX, right? And I'm just like, where has this show been all my life? We know we're 3 seasons in, with the 3rd season just dropped in September. So definitely check it out. Kevin, whatcha?
So I have also been streaming a show, but not on HBO, not through Hulu. It's actually on Apple TV. The show is The Patient, which is a psychological thriller starring Steve Carell and Domhnall Gleeson. It's currently airing on Apple TV. I believe we have the final episode coming out next week, so it's all but wrapping up now. Really interesting, just in that the episodes are about 20 minutes. So you just you start an episode, and before you know it, it's over. I have to say, there's just such a realistic sense of dread and fear that I get from this show. It feels real. Steve Carell is just a powerhouse in everything he does these days. He's so good in that. And Domhnall Gleeson is just, it's weird how you could see how he'd be charming and how people wouldn't know what he's like, in real life, but then he's just terrifying when he's with Steve Carell. A really interesting concept. I've really been enjoying it, and can't wait to see how it all sort of wraps up. Is either of you guys watching that one at all?
Yeah, I've been following it. I think it's because I've been watching it through Disney Plus, so I didn't know if it was on Apple TV Plus as well. But I've been binging it on there and watching it all the way through, week to week now, and it's interesting because I think there's moments in the show where it starts to kind of lose me a little bit, where I'm just kind of like, it feels like it's fizzling out, because the concept, it's such a small cast. It all takes place in like a basement essentially. So it's mostly 2 characters at a time talking. So it's one of those things where it's just like, it starts to kind of feel like, okay, like, are they going to get to the resolve here? Are they going to get to the resolve here? And you'll go through maybe 1 or 2 episodes that won't feel as satisfying, and then something's going to pop in another episode. And I'm really looking forward to the finale. I do really hope that they can give a satisfying conclusion, because I know that they're probably going to want to do a season 2. And so, like, I don't know how they can write it so that it still allows for a season 2, but then is satisfying at the same time. I really hope it ends up working out, because again, as you're saying, Kevin, the performances between Steve and Domhnall are just unbelievable. Like, especially Domhnall Gleeson is just so phenomenal in this role, and it's one of those things where, again, we're used to seeing him again in more charming situations. So it's like, wait, he's gonna be the antagonist for this series. But yeah, man, I'm very intrigued to see where they go with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's where the 20-minute episodes work, is that they don't spend too long on any particular event that's taking place between the two. And so I think that does work to keep it a bit shorter. But I'm totally with you in that, at least for myself, I would like to see it a one and done. I wish, some networks just had the courage to sort of do that, to just say, listen, this is the story we want to tell. It's one season, and then we're just going to move on. And I think a show like this, where the production budget can't be that big, it almost allows it so that you're not going, well, we built all these elaborate sets, we need to keep using them, we need to find ways to keep telling this story. No, tell your story, and let's just move on after a satisfying ending. And
I think this is a show that, if you haven't started it yet, maybe just wait till it wraps up and binge the whole thing.
You could do it in like 2.5 hours. It's you could basically watch it like a movie, and I almost preferred that I had done that rather than waiting week to week for.
There were moments where
minutes.
I was like, I don't know if that was enough for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I will just correct myself. It is indeed on Disney Plus.
Okay.
I think I did a little morning show, Steve Carell. I got a little confused there, folks, but no, it is on Disney Plus. Another one of those, that's on Disney Plus? Man, they just... You can never really expect what to find on there, but there's lots and lots of good stuff. All right, well, that is it for This Week in Geek. Thank you for tuning in wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and leave us a glowing review. We always appreciate the love. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this week's news, you can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or if that's a bit too much like a musical and you prefer your movies without a constant barrage of dancing and singing like me, hit us up on Twitter at GeekcentricYT and Instagram at wearegeekcentric. As always, we have plenty of awesome content to check out. Justin and I attended the Black Adam Rocks Canada event, and we have our recap of all the awesome stuff that went down, plus our spoiler-free review of the movie. Also, it's Watch Club season. We have concluded our Watch Club for the Disney Plus series She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and have our second installment for Disney Plus's Andor coming soon. In addition, Darcy and I were able to check out the Clerks 3 Convenience Tour event, where we got to see the final chapter in the Clerks trilogy, as well as got a chance to do a little meet and greet photo op with Kevin Smith himself. So stay tuned for our thoughts on that. Plus, we have just a plethora of awesome interviews with the cast and crews of some of the biggest and best movies and TV shows to come your way over this last year. You can check those out wherever you listen to podcasts, or if you want to see our infectious smiles and those of the people we were fortunate enough to talk to, check those out at youtube.com/geekcentric. Plus, just like the show you just listened to, we have our weekly This Week in Geek show, where we look at all the latest news and trailers from the Geekiverse. And I mean, there's just so much more to check out, so please do so and leave us a review so we know what you thought. But until next time, thanks again for joining us, and as we say,
love ya.
Get home safe, guys.
Laters.